Joseph Matalon, our CFO, Carla Stevens-Hall, and our CEO, Anthony Smith. But as we do in all things, one of the most beautiful prayers that I've ever heard is our national anthem. And so I invite you to stand with me for the playing of the national anthem. Thank you. You may be seated. I now invite the Reverend Gary Harriott to lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. O Sovereign Lord, we gather for this AGM in the midst of a crisis facing our beloved Jamaica. We turn to you, our help in ages past, our help in the present and the years to come. We turn to you for comfort, for strength, and the inspiration we need to enable us to pick up the pieces and to move on. We thank you for those who are already doing so. In a special way, we present to you, O God, those who have been hardest hit by Hurricane Melissa. The people of Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James and Trelawney. We think of those who have lost loved ones and the indignity they have suffered. Those who have completely lost their homes, churches, or businesses, institutions and individuals who suffered major damage, those without food, water and clothing, those who have been wounded emotionally, psychologically, and have become broken in spirit, struggling through each day. O God, come to your people. Grant them the healing they need and lift their spirits from gloom to hope. Thank you for the love, care, and neighborliness that we are experiencing. The sacrifice of those who have put their personal loss aside in order to provide critical help to others. We thank you for the responses of our government and opposition, civil society organizations, the church, businesses, our people in the diaspora, the international community, who have and are coming to our aid. In a special way, O God, we thank you that as a group, we have been able to bring a sense of hope, providing information, highlighting people's stories, connecting anxious family members, providing humanitarian response. Continue, Lord, to bless the RJRGLEANER group, O God. And now as we attend to the matters before us, bless our gathering, our directors, our executive leadership, managers, and other staff members, our stakeholders, those who spend with us, and those we serve. Thank you for all that we have accomplished, and guide us in the decisions we shall make in support of our future undertaking. We ask this in your precious name, O Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Harriet. Transformation in action. That is what we'll be talking about today. And so it is my pleasure to now invite Mr. Joseph Matalan, Chairman of the RJR Group, to begin the formal proceedings. Give him a round of applause, man. Let him feel welcome. Mr. Matalan.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this our annual general meeting. We're very happy to see you turning out today for our annual general meeting. It's important that we stay close to our shareholders. Before I begin, I'd like to take care of some business of the meeting, which is to first of all seek confirmation from our company secretary, Tara Levy, if there are any apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, we do have an apology for absence from Dr. Casilla Jones-Johnson,
Who is the director of the group board. Okay. I can also confirm, based upon information provided to me by the company secretary, that persons in the room or by proxy, we have a number of proxies, 17 in total, and those 17 proxies represent 49% of the outstanding shares of the company. So a very significant number. At this stage, I would like to make a few opening remarks. I promise not to be long, because I want to get us looking at the presentations that are to come. If you just give me an opportunity to deal with the technology. Okay. So once again, good morning, fellow shareholders, ladies and gentlemen. I want to begin by acknowledging the very difficult days that our nation has endured following the passage of Hurricane Melissa. The scale of destruction across several parishes and the loss of life have been heartbreaking. On behalf of the board, management, and staff of the group, we extend our deepest sympathies to all who have lost loved ones or suffered damage to their homes, livelihoods, or communities. And in that regard, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that we observe a moment's silence for those families who lost their loved ones and for those loved ones themselves. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. In response to the national crisis that is the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, the RJR Communications Group has recently launched the RG Cares Foundation, our newly established charitable arm dedicated to social impact. You should know that the foundation has already set up a relief fund to assist community-level recovery efforts in the hardest-hit areas. This initiative is an extension of our long tradition of public service, showing that even as we transform our business, our commitment to Jamaica remains unwavering. Ladies and gentlemen, the 24-25 financial year was one of challenge, met by disciplined response. Revenues declined by about 3% year over year, mainly reflecting softness in print and radio, even as television delivered modest growth. The global shift in advertising spending toward digital platforms continues to reshape our industry around the world. We are responding proactively, as you will hear in the management presentations that will follow my remarks. Despite inflationary pressures, operating expenses were held flat through rigorous cost control and efficiency initiatives across the group. We recorded a net loss of over $600 million compared with just over $500 million in the previous financial year, driven largely by non-recurring items including restructuring costs and reduced gains from property valuations. Encouragingly, our normalized EBITDA, that is to say earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, improved year over year by $112 million, demonstrating improved underlying operating performance. In short, while the headline numbers reflect a difficult market, our fundamentals are improving through disciplined management. This year's theme, Transformation in Action, accurately describes the group's journey. We are now well advanced in implementing our target operating model, designed to simplify the organization, improve our agility, and embed accountability. Over 90% of the commercial restructuring has been completed, aligning marketing, sales, and business line leadership under a single unified approach. Our revenue strategy now rests on three clear pillars: reorganizing our commercial operations under lines of business heads for TV, radio, print, and digital. We have been attracting complementary talent to strengthen leadership in sales, marketing, and digital product management. And finally, diversifying revenue streams, particularly through aggressive digital growth. Ladies and gentlemen, you may not readily know that this group now commands the largest digital footprint of any Jamaican media group. With 7.7 million followers and nearly 200 million monthly views across YouTube, Instagram, and our web platforms. Building on that scale, management is targeting digital revenue growth of over 30% per annum going forward. And that will be supported by new premium content, subscription models, and data-driven advertising solutions. At the same time, the next generation TV rollout, our Digital Switchover Project, otherwise known as DSO, I am happy to say now reaches 66% of the Jamaican population, with data casting pilots in progress and new free-to-air channels being developed. I want to particularly underscore, though, that as a group, we have invested more than $1 billion to date in compliance with the national ATSC 3.0 mandate, the particular digital standard to which we are moving. However, from this point, continued progress will require government support to ensure that the most vulnerable one-third of Jamaican households, those typically relying exclusively on free-to-air television, are not left behind. And Tony will speak more of that in his presentation. Looking ahead, and as Tony will elaborate in his presentation, our focus remains on executing a number of strategic imperatives. Creating new revenue sources through digital products and data monetization, growing digital business aggressively, reducing our cost base through shared services, AI-enabled efficiencies, and collaborations such as the proposed joint print and distribution partnership with The Observer, which we announced earlier this year. And building a high-performance culture supported by our new group head of HR and renewed employee engagement programs. Rolling out and monetizing next-gen TV and completing implementation of the new operating model across all support functions. These priorities are geared all to one outcome: the emergence of a leaner, more agile, and a financially stronger company, one that can sustain profitability in a changing media landscape. As I said at last year's meeting, our independence and integrity remain non-negotiable. In a world awash with misinformation, Jamaica needs strong and trusted media more than ever. We will continue to serve, ensuring that the voices and stories of our people are represented fairly, truthfully, and with balance. And ladies and gentlemen, this transformation, which you will hear more about shortly, is not cosmetic. It is structural. It is about building the media and technology organization that Jamaica deserves, one that is digitally driven, financially sound, and rooted in public purpose. Before closing, I want to suggest, on a brighter note, that the national crisis set in motion by Hurricane Melissa also potentially provides a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us as a nation. The opportunity exists to leapfrog our development trajectory and to build back better and more resilient infrastructure. If we can mobilize sufficient aid and multilateral support as catalysts to crowd in private sector investment, the combination could provide a significant boost to GDP that would ameliorate some of the effects on our debt-to-GDP ratio and create temporarily, at least, some well-needed fiscal space. To all of you and all of our shareholders, thank you for your continued confidence. To our employees, thank you for your resilience and professionalism. And to our fellow Jamaicans, especially those recovering from Hurricane Melissa, please know that this group and the RG Cares Foundation will be standing with you. Together, we will rebuild stronger communities, a stronger company, and a stronger Jamaica. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'd like to take the opportunity now to also introduce a few folks. And first and foremost, our external auditors, Baker Tilly, who I believe are represented this morning by Roxiana Malcolm Tyrrell. Welcome, ma'am. I also want to introduce, well, Tony is going to deal with the introduction of directors in his presentation, but I want to welcome in particular some of those that will not be represented in that. And the first category is our subsidiary directors. And I see in the crowd at least one, Gregory Pullen. I believe Rupert Hartley is here with us also. Gary Allen is also here. Anybody, any directors of subsidiary boards that I have missed? Our external counsel, Trevor Patterson, I believe he's represented here this morning. But perhaps not. Yes. It is? Who is it? Good morning, sir. The chairperson of the GCML Scheme Board of Trustees, Rupert Hartley. Andrew Leo Riney, a member of our Enterprise Risk and Finance Committee. And from the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Livingston Morris, Managing Director and CEO of the JSE, Andre Tuller, Chief Regulatory Officer of the JSE, and the General Manager of the JCSD, Andrea Kelly. I know you guys always are very happy to see some of our personalities at our annual general meeting, and therefore I want to acknowledge the presence of a number of them. Mr. Christopher Daly, and if you are here, I would like you to stand. Mr. Christopher Daly, Mr. Neville Bell, Simone Clark Cooper, Paula Ann Porter Jones, Derek Wilkes, Emily Shields, Clive Mullings, Dr. Orville Taylor, Ms. Norma Brown Bell, and Ms. Janella Precious, sorry, beg your pardon. And of course, while she is in transition to her new post as head of radio business, we must also introduce Delia Harris. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now call the meeting to order and first ask the company secretary, well actually I'm not going to ask her, I'm going to tell you, that we have 17 proxies which have been submitted to the meeting. Those proxies represent 49% of the outstanding shares of the company. and the proxy register is available for inspection at the registrar's table in the room. Okay, so that will bring us now to the first order of business, which is the tabling of resolutions. But before I do so, no, I beg your pardon. The first resolution is to receive the accounts for the year ended March 31st, 2025, together with the reports from the directors and auditors thereon. But first, I will ask the representative of Baker Tilly, Mrs. Roxana Malcolm Terrell, to read the report of the auditors. I'm hoping it's going to be the abbreviated version. It's not? Okay, all right.
Good morning. Oh dear. Thank you. I got it. Thanks. To the members of Radio Jamaica Limited. Report on the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements. Opinion. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statements and the standalone financial statements give a true and fair view of the consolidated financial position of Radio Jamaica Limited, the company, and its subsidiary, together the group, and the standalone financial position of the company as at the 31st of March 2025, and of their consolidated and standalone financial performance, and their consolidated and standalone cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, and comply with the requirements of the Jamaican Companies Act. What we have audited. Radio Jamaica Limited's consolidated and standalone financial statements comprise the consolidated statement of financial position as at the 31st of March 2025, the consolidated statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the consolidated statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the consolidated statement of cash flows for the year then ended, the company's statement of financial position as at the 31st of March 2025, the company's statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the company's statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the company's statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes to the financial statements, which include a summary of material accounting policies. Basis for opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with International Standards of Auditing, ISAs. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement section of our report. We believe that the audit evidence we obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Independence. We are independent of the group in accordance with the International Ethics Standard Boards for Accountants Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants. We have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the ISPA Code. The financial statements for Radio Jamaica Limited for the year ended March 31st, 2024, were audited by another firm of auditors who expressed an unmodified opinion on those financial statements on July 29, 2024. As part of designing our audit, we determined materiality and assessed the risks of material misstatement in the consolidated and standalone financial statements. In particular, we considered whether management made subjective judgments, for example, in respect of significant accounting estimates that involve making assumptions and considering future events that are inherently uncertain. As in all of our audits, we also address the risk of management override of internal controls, including, among other matters, consideration of whether there was evidence of bias that represented a risk of material misstatements due to fraud. We tailored the scope of our audit in order to perform sufficient work to enable us to provide an opinion on the consolidated financial statements as a whole, taking into account the structure of the group, the accounting processes and controls, and the industry in which the group operates. Our 2025 audit was planned and executed having regard to the fact that the operations of the group remain largely unchanged from the prior year. The group's businesses are organized into 3 primary segments, being audiovisual, audio, and print and other operations. The entities that comprise the group maintain their own accounting records. In establishing the overall group audit strategy and plan, we determined the type of work that was needed to be performed at the components by the group engagement team and component auditors. Key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that, in our professional judgment, were of most significance in our audit of the financial statement of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement as a whole, and informing our opinion thereon, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. 1. Impairment of goodwill. Refer to notes 3I and 15 to the consolidated and standalone financial statements for disclosures of related accounting policies and balances. The total carrying value of goodwill as at the 31st of March 2025 is 75 million. For 2024, 75 million, representing 1.34, for 2024, 1.2% of the group's total assets. Management is required to perform an annual impairment assessment of goodwill in accordance with IAS 36, impairment of assets. This involves estimating the recoverable amount of cash-generating units, CGUs, which requires significant judgment and estimate, particularly in forecasting future cash flows, determining appropriate discount rates, and assessing long-term growth rates. Given the materiality of the goodwill balance and the complexity and subjectivity involved in the impairment assessment, we consider this to be a key audit matter. Our audit procedure in relation to the impairment assessment of goodwill include, among other things, evaluating management's future cash flow forecasts and the process by which they were prepared, including testing the underlying calculations for accuracy, comparing forecasts to the latest board-approved financial projections, assessing the historical accuracy of prior forecasts by comparing them to actual results, assessing key assumptions used in the impairment model, including revenue growth rates, terminal growth rates, EBITDA margins, capital expenditure, and discount rates. Comparing these assumptions to external derived benchmark data and valuations of similar companies. Evaluating the reasonableness of projected economic growth, competitive dynamics, cost inflation, and discount rates used in our industry and macroeconomic knowledge. testing the mathematical accuracy of the impairment model, and performing sensitivity analysis by varying key assumptions to assess the impact on the recoverable amount. Comparing the sum of discounted cash flows to the carrying value of the relevant cash-generating units, and considering market conditions such as the inflationary pressures, supply chain disruptions, and geopolitical risk to assess the reasonableness of management's estimates. Reviewing the adequacy of disclosures in the financial statements, particularly those relating to the key assumptions used in the impairment assessment, sensitivity of the recoverable amount to changes in those assumptions. Based on the procedures performed, we found that management's conclusion that goodwill was not impaired at the reporting date was not unreasonable. Number 2, expected credit loss on financial assets. Expected credit losses, ECL, amount to $353,526,000. 2024, $490,783,000 for the group, and the $80,988,000, 2024, $100,646,000 for the company, has been recognized in respect of financial assets. The group's measurement of expected credit losses, ECL, on financial assets is inherently complex and involves significant judgment. Under IFRS 9, the ECL model requires the estimation of key parameters such as probability of default, PD, loss given default, LGD, and exposure at default, EAD, which are sensitive to changes in economic conditions and forward-looking information. The incorporation of multiple macroeconomic scenarios and management overlays further increases the level of estimation uncertainty. Given the materiality of the financial assets subject to ECL assessment and the subjectivity involved in determining the underlying assumptions, this area was a key focus of our audit. See Note 23 and 25 of the consolidated financial statements. Our audit procedures in relation to expected credit loss, ECL, on financial assets include the following. Model evaluation. Assessing the group's ECL models for trade receivables and other financial assets, including governance over key judgments and compliance with IFRS 9. Specialist involvement. Engaging financial risk modeling specialists to evaluate the use of forward-looking information and management overlays in estimating ECLs. Independently assessing key assumptions, including PD, LGD, and EAD. Review the development and application of economic scenarios and their probability weightings. Benchmark macroeconomic inputs against external data sources. Data integrity testing. On a sample basis, tested the completeness and accuracy of data inputs to the ECL models by tracing them to underlying accounting records. Disclosure review. Assess the adequacy and clarity of disclosures in accordance with IFRS 7, focusing on the transparency of key assumptions, estimation uncertainty, and sensitivity to changes in inputs. Number 3, valuation of investment properties. As disclosed in Note 14 to the consolidated financial statement, the group holds investment properties measured at fair value with a carrying value of $287,400,000. 2024, $274,900,000, and $100,000,000, 2024, $87,500,000 for the company as at the 31st of March 2025. The evaluation of investment properties involves significant judgment and estimation, particularly in determining market rental rates, capitalization rates, discount rates, and future cash flows. These estimates are influenced by prevailing market conditions, property-specific factors, and external valuation inputs. Given the materiality of the balance and the subjectivity involved in the valuation process, this was a key area of audit focus. How the matter was addressed in our audit. Our audit procedure in this area included understanding the valuation process, obtaining an understanding of the group's valuation methodology, including the use of external valuation experts and the governance over key assumptions, assessment of valuation inputs, evaluate the competence, capabilities, and objectivity of the external valuers engaged by the group, assessed the valuation techniques applied and whether they were consistent with IFRS 13, testing key assumptions, assess the reasonableness of key inputs such as market rental rates, capitalization rates, discount rates, and vacancy assumptions by comparing them to market data, recent transactions, and industry benchmarks. Data integrity and reperformance. On a sample basis, test the accuracy of the property data used in the valuations and reperform select calculations to assess mathematical accuracy. Disclosure review. Evaluated the adequacy of the disclosures in the financial statements, including the valuation methodology, key assumptions, and sensitivity to changes in inputs in accordance with IFRS 13. Other information. Management is responsible for other information. The other information comprises the annual report, but does not include the consolidated and standalone financial statements and our auditor's report thereon, which is expected to be made available to us after the date of this auditor's report. Our opinion on the consolidated and standalone financial statement does not cover the other information, and we do not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, our responsibility is to read the other information identified above when it becomes available, and in doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the consolidated and standalone financial statements, or our knowledge obtained in the audit, or otherwise appears to be materially misstated. When we read the annual report, if we conclude that there is a material misstatement therein, we are required to communicate the matter to those charged with governance. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the consolidated and standalone financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation of the consolidated and standalone financial statements that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS and with the requirements of the Jamaican Companies Act, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of consolidated and standalone financial statements that are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the consolidated and standalone financial statement, management is responsible for assessing the group's and company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as applicable matters relating to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting unless management either intends to liquidate the group or the company or cease operations or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the group's and the company's financial reporting process. Auditors' responsibilities for the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated and standalone financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with ISAs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if, individually or in aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these consolidated and standalone financial statements. As part of an audit in accordance with ISAs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risks of material restatements of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentation, or the override of internal controls. Obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the group's and company's internal control. Evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and the related disclosures made by management. Conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern basis of accounting and, based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists relating to events or conditions which may cast doubt on the group's or company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our auditor's report to the relevant disclosures in the consolidated and standalone financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the group or company to cease to continue as a going concern. Evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, including the disclosures, and whether the consolidated and standalone financial statements represent the underlying transactions and events in a manner that achieves fair presentation. Obtain sufficient, appropriate audit evidence regarding the financial information of the entities or business activities within the group to express an opinion on the consolidated and standalone financial statements. We are responsible for the direction, supervision, and performance of the group audit. We remain solely responsible for our audit opinion. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other things, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identify during our audit. We also provide those charged with governance with a statement that we complied with the relevant ethical requirements regarding independence and to communicate with them all relationships and other matter that may reasonably be thought to bear on our independence and, where applicable, related safeguards. From the matters communicated with those charged with governance, we determined those matters that were of most significance in the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement of the current period and are therefore the key audit matters. We described those matters in our audit report unless law or regulation precludes public disclosure about the matters, or when, in extremely rare circumstances, we determine that a matter should not be communicated in our report because the adverse consequences of doing so would reasonably be expected to outweigh the public interest of such communication. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. As required by the Jamaican Companies Act, we have obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purposes of our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been kept so far as appears from our examination of those records, and the accompanying consolidated and standalone financial statements are in agreement therewith and give the information required by the Jamaican Companies Act in the manner so required. The engagement partner on the audit resulting in this independent auditor's report is Roxanna Malcolm Tyrrell. Baker Tilly, Chartered Accountants, Kingston, Jamaica, 12th of August 2025. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Roxana. And I want to make another appeal, as I make every year, to the accounting fraternity, to the JSE, to the Companies Office, and to the ABA to lobby to give us the ability to share at the meeting an abbreviated version of this report. It is in the annual report for everyone to read. Okay. I will now invite members to consider and, if thought fit, pass the following resolution. Resolved that the audited accounts for the year ended March 31st, 2025, together with the reports from the directors and auditors thereon, be and are hereby adopted. Can I get a mover? Mr. Burrow, how are you, sir? Can I get a seconder of the motion? Can you state your name, please? Say again? Cecil Cleary. Thank you. McCleary, thank you. Before asking for your questions on the report and accounts, and before voting on it, I would like to ask the management, led by the CEO, to make comments on our present financial position, our experience during the year, and our prospects for the upcoming year. As you know, the presenters will be Carla Stevens-Hall, our CFO, and Mr. Anthony Smith, our CEO, and I would invite Carla, or is it you, Tony? Carla, to come forward and present the financial data.
Carla Stevens-Hall, Chief Financial Officer. Carla Stevens-Hall is strategically modernizing RJRGLEANER's financial management to drive greater efficiency, accountability, and value creation. Her data-driven approach supports the group's push for sustainable growth.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, shareholders, directors, management, and staff. It is indeed my pleasure to take you through the financial reports for the group and highlights of our financial performance for the year April 2024 to March 2025. The financial statements and the accompanying notes can be found in your AGM report that you have received. The auditor has given her statement on the accounts presented, which were not qualified, and all key matters have been noted and understood. Over the past couple of years, global economies continue to face unprecedented challenges. Jamaica has not been spared. While the BOJ maintained some element of stability, the island's GDP declined by 0.9%, and the country and most industries, including the media and tech industry, have been affected. While inflation reduced from 7.3% to 5.3% during the fiscal year, the local economy continues to be impacted by an FX rate depreciating by 3.82% or 2.48% in 1 year, logistics issues which have led to significant cost challenges of key business inputs, the effects of the post-pandemic period and the change in advertising appetite and times is still being felt and affects our industry directly. Management has, however, remained resilient, agile, and adaptable, and are implementing appropriate measures to manage these issues. And we continue to work towards the transformation of the RJR Group in the local and international media landscape. Our resilience and efforts are reflected in the fact that as at March 31st, 2025, despite revenue fall-off, costs reduced marginally, and operational ratios have remained stable. At this point, we'll go into a little bit more detail about what has happened in our financial statements. So we start with our profit highlights. The group's pre-tax loss of $664 million represents a further decline of $97 million on the $567 million made in the previous year. I want us to consider that the year before that, as I stood before you at the last AGM, the decline was actually $817 million. So we are improving. The net loss of $666 million represents a decline in profit of $137 million compared to the loss of $529 million, which was made in the prior year. Of course, in the year before, the decline was $779 million. However, while we still have a negative loss, while we have a loss, we do not need to be dismayed. This decline in profitability was in large part due to revenue reduction of $185 million across the business lines. However, we did have a reduction in operating costs by $15 million in comparison to last year, which is showing our stabilizing operating costs. We had some impairment gains of receivables of $137 million recorded in the current period. There were, however, increased finance costs of $33 million, and we've had a reduction in the value of investments and property valuations this year. Other comprehensive income, as you will see on your financial statements, that is the income and expenses that do not pass through the profit or loss of the company. In simple terms, it's a gain or loss that just has not been realized. Our OCI, as we call our other comprehensive income, was affected by a negative IFRS 19 adjustment on the wind-up of the defined benefit scheme in Radio Jamaica Limited of $109 million. There was a net gain on equity investments of $15 million, which was offset by a foreign currency translation loss as a result of having foreign subsidiaries of $5 million, and that resulted in a reported expense of $99 million. Total comprehensive income to include the OCI was $765 million, which was below the $538 million reported in the previous year. As a result, our earnings per share decreased from a negative 18 cents to negative 22 cents. In the fiscal year 2024-2025, our company experienced a revenue decline of approximately 3% year on year, $185 million in total. This decrease was primarily driven by ongoing structural shifts within the media industry, notably the continued decline in print advertising and circulation, as well as the reduction in radio services. The persistent transition from traditional to digital platforms that has intensified a bit, and that has led to softer advertising marketing overall. Television revenue slightly increased as a result of the Olympics, but this was offset by the decline in the print and radio segments, and of course this reflects the broader industry trends. It is our intent to continue to focus on initiatives to improve our revenue position in the coming years. Anthony will share with you all the work that's been done and will done to address this critical area later on in his presentation. Despite inflation, our operating expenses remain largely stable. It decreased marginally from $6.07 billion to $6.06 billion, which is well below inflation rate. This was achieved, as promised last year, through rigorous expense controls implemented by the management team. We also focused on efficiency and cost reduction initiatives, and these were implemented to also work with mitigating the impact of the decline in revenues as well. Direct expenses only increased by $37 million, or 1%. This was in a year when Olympics was held and broadcasted. This is particularly critical and important to understand because in the year being reported, the cost of the Olympics was $120 million more than the cost to actually broadcast World Championships in the prior year. Therefore, you would have probably expected a commensurate increase in expenses of $120 million, but we were able to use our cost strategies to mitigate all of that, and so we only had an increase of $37 million. So our cost containment efforts continue to bear fruit, and we will continue to work on those as well. Selling expenses reduced by $53 million, or 8%. This is in tandem with revenue as a result of reduced and more cost-efficient marketing strategies and promotional activities. There's also a reduction in our agency commission rates, and that also impacted our selling expenses. Administrative expenses, which last year rose by 32%, and we committed to be an area that we would focus on in the 2024 period, was stable with a $4 million increase over prior year. Included in those administrative expenses are also restructuring related costs of $47 million. Other operating expenses, which comprises mainly information technology, security, electricity, maintenance, technical, motor vehicles, and salaries in this category, reduced by $6 million, or 1%, mainly due to our efforts at reducing our maintenance costs. In addition to our operational challenges, our operating costs were further impacted by increased finance costs. Finance costs of $83 million increased by $33 million. These heightened expenses resulted from new financing arrangements entered into during the year to support several strategic initiatives. These will redound to our benefit in the medium term. An impairment reversal of 137 million was also recognized, primarily due to major efforts in collecting outstanding debt, and we were very successful in that. This reversal indicates improved recovery prospects and has positively affected our financial position. Other operating income decreased by 70 million compared to the prior year. The decline was primarily because we had lower investment income. There was a 34 million reduction in investment income due to our encashment of investments undertaken during the year to bolster our cash flow position. These encashments, while necessary for liquidity, would have resulted in lower income from investments compared to the prior period. There was non-recurring legal settlements of approximately $20 million. For property revaluations, the prior figures included revaluations of 61 million that had positively impacted other operating income, but these have not been repeated this year, leading to an overall decrease. In terms of our share of associates, companies and write-offs, we had a one-off which will not recur. We recorded approximately 58 million in write-offs relating to these investments. We do not expect any additional impairments from our investment portfolio going forward. We also want to focus on our EBITDA. EBITDA measures our profit from the company's core business operations before the effects of financing and some of our accounting policy decisions. So when our EBITDA improves, it typically means that the company is making more money from main business activities through either increased revenue or decreased operating costs, which we have worked on our operating costs. EBITDA decreased by 28 million from 151 million in 2023-24 to 179 million, primarily due to the prior fair value property adjustment of 62 million. Now, when our non-recurring items for this year are excluded and we actually calculate a normalized EBITDA, what we find is that there is a 112 million year-on-year improvement in EBITDA, as well as an improvement in funds generated from operations, indicating that our ongoing core operations are actually showing positive growth. An improvement in EBITDA indicates our core operations are becoming more profitable and efficient, which generally will reflect stronger financial performance and the potential for positive cash flow. As the company continues to enhance efficiencies and manage costs better across all business segments, overall EBITDA is expected to improve further. In March 2025, our balance sheet and financial ratios reflected key operational dynamics. The current ratio and liquidity ratio decreased slightly, signaling tighter but effective management of assets to meet our short-term obligations. The balance sheet shows a noteworthy reduction of current assets to the tune of 372 million, which is directly attributable to a reduction in trade receivables as well as a minimal encashment of investments. The significant reduction in days sales outstanding from 47 to 32 days suggests improved cash flow through better collection processes. Current liabilities notably reduced as well by 113 million below the prior period ending balance. This correlates to the decrease in days payable outstanding, which fell from 74 days to 57 days, which highlights our enhanced cash management and strong vendor relationships. Vendor settlements periods reduced drastically, reinforcing our commitment to maintaining financial agility and supporting our sustainable growth. The debt-to-equity ratio increased to 0.65 from 0.55, indicating a higher reliance on debt, which we are managing strategically to leverage our growth opportunities. Now, what I will do is take you give you some insights on what has happened for our first half of the year, second quarter and first half of the year. Now, for the second quarter, July to September 2024, compared to July to September 2025, or Q2, while our revenue decreased by 8%, this was directly due to the variation in earnings between World Championships and Olympics. So in 2024, there was Olympics. 2025, we had World Championships. Those two properties earn very different revenues, with Olympics making have far greater earnings than actually World Championships. Our gross profits would have reduced by only $35 million, indicating a $137 million improvement or reduction in our direct costs, as the revenue loss did not translate to that amount in the gross profit loss. Our net expenses have reduced comparatively by $57 million, and therefore our profits are better by $22 million. But key to note is that our EBITDA has improved by $60 million. Year to date, our revenues, while it has decreased as well, our profits has reduced only by $55 million. So it continues to show that our cost containment and management, we are actively working on that. And net expenses has reduced comparatively by $237 million, and therefore our profit is better by $11 million. Noting also that our EBITDA has improved by $36 million. Our assets has reduced due to depreciation, but this was offset by higher receivables at the end of September 2025 due to World Championships collections that were actually outstanding. Non-current liabilities increased due to current financing arrangements, which were offset by a reduction in our current liabilities. We had an improvement of $174 million in net cash used for operations, which is an indication of much better working capital management. Net cash used is the KPI that identifies if and considers if the company has spent more cash than is generated from core operations. The improvement of $174 million suggests that the company is managing working capital better and reducing operating expenses. It indicates an improvement in operational cash performance, even though it's not quite yet positive, but that is our goal and that is what we are working on. The numbers underscore the significant challenges we face, but it also reinforces the necessity for our continued decisive action towards a strategic turnaround. We continue to actively address core issues by focusing on cost efficiencies and strengthening our revenue streams and enhancing the digital transformation of the organization. As I close this financial presentation, I must thank the management and staff of the RJR Group, who continue to put forth their best in the achievement of the company's goals, the board of directors for their stewardship and continued guidance, our shareholders, auditors, bankers, clients, and other stakeholders for their continued support and confidence in our business, the accounting and finance team who have done an amazing job in support of all the company's activities and deadlines, mission, and vision. Thank you once again for your attention, and I wish you a great morning as I hand over to the CEO, Anthony Smith, the man with the plan, who will take you through our achievements and plans to achieve our goal of repositioning the company for sustainable growth and improved financial health in the future.
Anthony Smith, Chief Executive Officer. As CEO, Anthony Smith is at the helm of RJRGLEANER's transformation, guiding its strategic realignment towards digital growth and operational excellence. His leadership embodies the group's renewed vision of innovation and sustainability. Anthony Smith,
So good you play it twice. Morning, everybody. I have to check if it's still morning. All right, before I begin my presentation, I'm first going to video introduce the senior management team. And they are sitting in the second row and some third row. So afterward, if you want to interact with them, you can interact with them. So here goes.
Dahlia Harris, Head of Radio Business. Dahlia Harris leads the transformation of the radio division, focusing on creative content delivery and audience expansion. Her vision ensures that radio continues to thrive as a vibrant, modern medium within the group's multimedia portfolio. Ransford Ricketts, Head of TV Business. Ransford Ricketts oversees the operations and strategic development of the TV business, aligning programming and production with evolving viewer expectations.
Milton Walker, Deputy General Manager, News, Sports and Current Affairs, Broadcast. A seasoned journalist and newsroom reader, Milton Walker steers the group's broadcast news operations with a focus on credibility, balance, and relevance. Trevor Johnson, Deputy General Manager, TV Services. Trevor Johnson plays a pivotal role in redefining television operations to meet changing audiences' demands. His focus on creative content delivery and platform modernization supports the group's digital expansion.
Birchall Gibson, Head of Print Business. Birchall Gibson leads the strategic renewal of RJRGLEANER's print operations, ensuring the continued strength and relevance of the group's publishing portfolio.
Moya Thomas, Editor-in-Chief, Gleaner Company Media Limited. As Editor-in-Chief, Moya Thomas leads the team in upholding the Gleaner's legacy of journalistic excellence.
Beverly Thompson, Group Head of Digital Business. Beverly Thompson leads the digital transformation strategy, expanding the group's footprint across new media platforms.
Michelle Anderson, Group Head of Sales. Michelle Anderson leads the group's sales strategy, driving revenue growth through innovative client partnerships and cross-platform solutions. Sandra Clue, Manager, Advertising and Commercial Sales. Sandra Clue leads the Advertising and Commercial Services team in driving revenue growth and delivering effective client solutions across the Gleaner's print platforms. Her leadership ensures strong partnerships and impactful campaigns.
Andrew Brown, Group Marketing Manager. Andrew Brown champions brand strategy and audience engagement across the group's media platforms. His creative approach strengthens RJRGLEANER's market presence and supports the group's digital transformation goals. Michael Henlin, Chief Technology Officer. As CTO, Michael Henlin drives the technological backbone of RJRGLEANER's modernization, steering digital infrastructure upgrades and innovation. Alison Simpson, Group Human Resource Manager. Alison Simpson champions the people dimension of RJRGLEANER's transformation by cultivating a culture of adaptability, collaboration, and growth.
Shawnee Fitt, Head of Business Transformation.
Shawnee's all
leading the charge for speed and agility. Shawnee Fitt is reshaping how key projects and processes are executed to modernize the group and sustain long-term impact. Gary Allen, Group Senior Executive, Corporate and External Affairs. A strategic leader with a deep understanding of media and communications, Gary Allen is helping to shape RJRGLEANER's transformation through enhanced stakeholder engagement and corporate alignment. His vision anchors the group's reputation as a trusted modern multimedia powerhouse.
And Gary didn't stand because Gary says everybody knows Gary. Right. I'd also just want to use this opportunity, although we don't have a video presentation, but just to introduce members of the group board who are here. And I'll start with Dr. David McBean. They're in the front row. So if you want to interact with them, you can interact with them. So David McBean, Dr. David McBean, let me be precise. Lisa Johnson, Mina Israel, and you can applaud, it's okay. Mina Israel, Sharon Roper, Elizabeth Ann Jones, Douglas Orain, Peter Melhedo, and Mervyn Eyre. Thanks again. So these are the persons that's leading the transformation, and want you to be able to make connections between the faces and the names as you'll see them. So where are we trying to go? What's our vision? We want to build a financially strong, independent, and digitally driven media and technology organization. The group must be financially strong and independent to fulfill its mandate. We will do this by driving operational excellence and organizational agility. We must be excellent in how we do what we do, but also we must be agile because the landscape is constantly changing. So although we're doing a transformation now, it's not a full stop, it's an ongoing, because we have to be agile. As the market moves, as behaviors move, we have to be able to move with it. And we have to accelerate growth and innovation. Growth, of course, growth in revenues, reduction in costs, not growth, but also innovation, new ways of presenting material information that we have in the way that the consumer wants it. So that's where we're trying to get to. As Carla would have said, we have done a reasonably good job in cost containment. Without cost containment in the prior year, we would be in deep, deep waters. So we've done a good job. What we have not done such a good job at is revenue generation. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to spend a few minutes just indicating to you what we have been doing and what we will do in terms of revenue generation. And then I'll give an update on the other 5 strategic initiatives. Well, I would have said what's said in here. So our revenue generation strategy rests on 3 pillars. Reorganize our commercial operations, get complementary talent in as needed, as well as diversify our revenue streams, and in particular, to grow digital. So in terms of reorganizing our commercial operations, we have transformed our commercial operations along 3 lines. One is putting in line of business heads for print, TV, radio, and digital. And you would have been introduced to those persons prior. And their focus is on profitability. And let me give you a little bit of context. So the prior structure had, in terms of commercial, how the commercial structure was set up, had a head of print and digital, and a deputy CEO with responsibility for print and digital, and a deputy CEO with responsibility for broadcast and content. And they would be the primary commercial drivers in the organization, in the print sphere and in the broadcast sphere, meaning TV and radio. Now, but reporting to them was not only, so I came into the organization in that role as print and digital. And reporting to me, I had a sales team, I had a marketing team, but I also had print and plant, I had property management, I had security, etc., etc. And on the broadcast side, it's the same thing. They had their own sales team, their own marketing team, but they also had operational things as well. What we have moved to is a line of business head. So the line of business head for TV is Ransford. Ransford's sole purpose in life, well, as far as the RJRGLEANER communication group is, his sole purpose in life is to make the TV business as profitable as possible. That's it. You don't have of course, he'll have to interact with the operational people and so on, but his focus is make TV profitable. Burchell, make print profitable. Delia, make radio profitable. Bev, make digital profitable. You don't have to go anywhere else. If the business is falling off in print, I go straight to Burchell. Full stop. Now, they're supported in the second point there by a unified marketing and sales team, meaning rather than have a sales team for print and a sales team for marketing, we have one combined sales team and one combined marketing team. That means that the overall marketing strategy is supported. There's an overall marketing strategy, and Burchell can go to the marketing team for his specific needs for print, but that is aligned with an overall marketing strategy. Same for TV, same for etc. And similarly for sales, there's an overall sales strategy, because let's face it, the top 30 or top 50 biggest customers in Jamaica is the same. So if you have different sales teams going to these same 30 or 50 people, not in a coordinated way, that's not going to achieve the best results. So we have organized the team around line of business heads and supporting them, group marketing, group sales. So you'll have mentioned Andrew Brown as group marketing and Michelle Anderson as group sales. And then improving our content strategy to better monetize the content that we already have. I'll discuss that a little bit more. So that's one part of transforming the revenue generating or commercial operations of a business. The second part is to bring in complementary talent. So where we see that we have gaps or areas need strengthening, then we have brought in the talent as well. And I've listed here a few of the persons that have been brought in within this year, including the head of TV business, head of print business. So head of print business, Burchell, has been around but new in the role. Similarly with Delia, new in the role. Group head of marketing, group head of sales. A content monetization unit has been created, and that's on the digital side. We have a new digital media unit, and increasingly we have sales, especially training of the sales persons, but especially in digital. So that's the second plank, and then the third plank is to diversify our revenue streams. Now, the RJRGLEANER Communications Group already has the largest digital footprint of any media entity in Jamaica. Let me say that again. The RJRGLEANER, yes, thank you, communication has the largest digital footprint of any media entity in Jamaica. And I'll show you some numbers in the next couple of slides. We intend to continue to grow digital revenue by more than 30% per year for the next 3 years, as we have been saying. And we are leveraging our audience data to deliver a more targeted solution for our advertisers. So let me just share some numbers with you. We have almost 8 million followers and subscribers on our digital platforms. And we have 196 million views each month. 196 million views each month between our YouTube and our websites. On YouTube, we have 1.6 million subscribers across the Gleaner, Star, and TV. 1.6 million subscribers, and that is just on YouTube. And so we've included here media choice for the national elections. A lot of the elections was streamed on YouTube, meaning the debates, the rallies, you name it. We streamed it on YouTube. Over 4.7 million unique views, and we increased subscribers by over 70%. Realize that by saying we had, just during the election period, we had 4.7 million unique views. That's almost twice the population of Jamaica. So a lot of that was actually external to Jamaica. We have 2.8 million per population for Jamaica, right? And if you take out the kids below 5 or so, you realize that it's basically twice the potential audience in Jamaica. Between Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X, we have over 5 million followers. And on One Spot Media, we get over 500,000 views per month. So when we say that we are dominant in the digital space, we have the numbers to back it. And persons can go and check. I mean, digital is easily verified. Just share one other slide with you on this, on Instagram. Very important for our advertisers is engagement. Because one thing to have subscribers, but if they're not engaging with your content, then that's not good. On Instagram, we have 2.9 million engagements per month. And of course, as I mentioned at the start, 176 million views per month. How are we able to generate these numbers? And what does it mean? I'll share another stat with you that is not on, I mean, of course, I couldn't put everything. But I think just to get persons in context, what does this mean? Because good that you have people on, you know, a lot of people on, how does that translate to money, right? So on TVJ, YouTube, for example, between January and September 2024, and between January and September 2025, the revenues increased by more than 40%. Right? So we're not just scraping up numbers, we're converting it into cash. That's the aim, and that's what is happening. So we're leveraging the technology and platforms. We know that by better understanding each platform and the algorithm behind each platform, we can grow our revenues, and that's what we have been doing. That's one of the secret sauce that mustn't leave this room. We are very much focused on the customer. We're focused on where the customer is and what the customers want. We know what type of stories they want. We know when they want what type of stories. And that's the second element of the secret sauce, focus on the customer. And then overall, we're focused on business efficiency and modernization. So how do we use AI to help the business, to grow the business? How do we instill a digital-first culture in the organization as well? So these are some of the things that we're working with, because the wider the pool of persons who understand where we're going digitally, then the better the result will be. So that is our revenue strategy, right? We have reorganized the commercial business so that we have line of business heads supported by sales and marketing, etc. And sales and marketing is now a group effort rather than having pockets. Of course, our dominance spans both digital and traditional. So we're not giving up the traditional dominance that we have. So we know TVJ has more than 82% of viewers. The Star and Gleaner websites have more than 8 million views per month. One of the top 3 sites in Jamaica. And if you combine the 2 of them, they'll probably be number 1 combined. Radio Jamaica 94 FM, we know is number 2 in listenership, but suspect that it's number 1 in terms of revenue. And One Spot Media, as I've mentioned, very significantly, more than 563,000 views, more than half a million views per month. So, as I said, we would have looked at 2 out of our 6 strategic imperatives. That is to create new revenue sources, and I spent a little time focused on what we're doing in that area, as well as to grow digital business, which aligned with increasing revenue. Just going to spend a couple minutes on each of these to reduce the cost base, create a high-performing team, roll out next-gen TV, and implement a new operating model. So in terms of reducing the cost base, we have and are transforming our operating model, and we are seeing the results in the financials, so I won't elaborate on that. You know of the collaboration that we're doing with another print partner to print the papers and distribute it jointly, but to remain competitive in the editorial and commercial space. And we'll continue looking for opportunities like those. And also divesting ourselves of non-core assets and converting those into assets that will allow the group to be more nimble. So that's where we're at with cost. We'll continue pressing on costs because, as I said, where we want to get to is in a market where others can't compete or can't survive. We should be able to survive because of our cost per output. In terms of creating a high-performing team, we have brought on board a new group HR manager who is Alison Simpson, and she's charged with leading this effort. There are a number of engagement activities that's ongoing. CEO Connect, for example, where the CEO meets with, do I say selected? What do I say? Or do I say with randomly selected members of the staff who are able to meet with the CEO and ask any question, discuss any concern. And it has been proving to be very, very useful. RG Games, it's another thing. Everybody's now in a house, and whether it is bunny eating contests, whether it is football, whether it is dominoes, it brings out the competitiveness, but it also brings camaraderie, right? Because when and a next person on the same team, I don't really care where they work, or what they do normally. I get to see them as a person. And of course, it's very competitive between the 4 houses, and I won't tell you which house won last year. Blue. And also communication. We're working very hard on communication so that we have transparency and better feedback loops throughout the company. Second to last, rollout of DSO and monetization. The chairman would have mentioned in his opening remarks that we now have covered 66% of the population of Jamaica. But, if we are to be blunt, not much progress has been made in terms of further getting digital TV into the market. And I just want to spend a couple minutes and give you a context as to what is happening and what is needed. So, for about 2/3 of the TV audience, they get their TV via cable or via streaming, via the internet, right? So a lot of persons get their TVJ via cable. I suspect a lot of persons here, or they have One Spot Media or some other internet, and they get their cable there. That's about 2/3 of the population. 1/3 of the population get their free-to-air directly, meaning they have rabbit ears antenna or they have an antenna on the roof, right? And that is the segment that we're targeting in terms of getting them to adopt ATSC 3. For them to do that, they have to have what they call a set-top box that converts the ATSC 3 signal to something that the TV can use. That box costs roughly $100, right? It's about $16,000. Now, what you'll realize is that while for some, $16,000 is not a lot of money, but for that demographic whose sole, means of getting TV, is rabbit ears or antenna, that can present a challenge, right? And if they have to buy a set-top box and possibly buy an antenna as well as cable to fit it all together, that can be a challenge. So this is where the government comes in most instances. So in most instances of a TV switchover, government is involved to support that most vulnerable, that 1/3, which is the most vulnerable segment of the market, right? So we have done the government mandated free-to-air operations in Jamaica, they mandated the standard, which is ATSC 3, and we have complied. The RJRGLEANER Communications Group has put in more than $1 billion investment in digital TV. But without government support to get that last mile, especially those vulnerable customers, it's going to be slow implementation. So we're in active dialogue with the government and our regulators as well. Gary is actually leading that charge. And we'll continue to lobby the government for support in this area. Right? And of course, if you can join your voices to our lobby, that would be great as well. Bearing in mind that we're trying to protect that vulnerable 1/3 of the population. And of course, the final strategic imperative is that of implementing a new operating model, looking at how we do what we do. And as I would have indicated, in terms of the commercial structure, that's about 90% complete. And in terms of the other areas, property management, fleet, HR, finance, etc., we are about 60% complete. But we are not only about business, we also care about what's happening to our neighbors. In July of this year, was it July? It was incorporated, May of this year, right. RJRGLEANER Cares was incorporated as a charitable organization. I was trying to find the right word. I'm just going to share, I think it's a 2-minute video of what they have been doing since Melissa struck. Let me see. Nope, hold on. Nope.
We shall rise again. We shall rise and spread our wings once again. We shall rise again.
This is the RG Cares Foundation, the charitable arm of Radio Jamaica's parent company. They are on a mission to bring relief to those most affected by Hurricane Melissa. In partnership with a number of entities, RG Cares turned these relief zones into hubs of communication where residents could recharge, log on, and simply call loved ones to say, "I'm okay." In the aftermath of a hurricane, connection is power. A working phone means safety. A message means peace of mind. For days, many here were cut off from relatives both locally and abroad. So these stations, simple as they look, became lifelines. It's a sound of relief, not just from the hum of a charging cable, but from knowing someone still cares. The relief effort is a work of many hands, powered by partnerships and purpose. You can help the RG Cares Foundation impact the lives of our brothers and sisters by dropping off items such as canned goods, dry food, water and hygiene products at Webster Memorial Church Hall, Hope United, Meadowbrook United and Portmore United Church.
We shall rise again. We shall rise and spread our wings once again. We shall rise.
So we encourage you, if you want to donate, you can donate to the foundation, and that work is ongoing. The team went out as recently as yesterday, Saturday, yesterday was Sunday, Saturday, to Lacovia and Brampton in St. Elizabeth, and the work is ongoing. So, what's the takeaway from this? Despite challenges, we are executing with discipline. We are making the tough decisions now, and we are building a foundation for renewed growth and stronger margins in the future. We are confident that the plans that we have will return the company to profitability and create long-term value for our shareholders. Carla has indicated that there are a few green shoots that we're seeing. We're not there yet, but we believe with the plans that we have, and if we remain disciplined in our execution, we'll get there. Short term, we're focused on stabilizing revenues, reducing structural costs, and generating cash. We need to be cash positive. Mid-term, medium term, we expect digital revenue growth will increasingly offset any declines that may happen in other revenue streams. And long term, we're looking to build a balanced, multi-platform media and technology company with sustained profitability. Thank you, folks. And with that, I will now hand back to the chairman.
Those are coming up, my dear. Those are coming up. All right, so we have moved the resolution for the audited accounts and seconded that resolution. Before we vote on that resolution, we're going to now take questions both in the room and also our audiences online. And I would ask those who are going to be asking questions to go to one of the microphones, to state their name, and then ask their question.
One, my name is Trevor Gay. First thing, I want to big up RJR for 75 years. I am 81, and the first time I ever listened radio, or when Radio Fusion come into existence, we couldn't buy and we never have. Two, TVJ is doing a good job. No politician or no church leader come capture it, because you have earned the trust of the people. And three, Jesse Blake, I don't know him, I never seen him yet, but he's a good virgin that went end up on radio. And Miss Lady here there, so Dahlia. She a from a girl because she used to be part of my team Portmore. And she was on the 25th of September, which I'll never forget in my life, when she was doing our thing for us. And two, me want TVJ stop the American cheap something. We want develop the and we want Louise Bennett and them type of black girl up on TVJ. We don't want no American riffraff. So I'm begging you, do that for us. And remember, when son a Christian, we more one people upon earth of the earth. I want to talk down about where we going to Palestine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. For the next question, I'm hopeful that apart from providing comments, which is perfectly legitimate, you will also have a question to ask.
Me have $1,000, but me not give more than 500 for what TVJ do, because I was proud of it. To see TVJ give something. So I'm going to go to 500 out of my $1,000.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Reverend Dick.
Good afternoon, morning, good morning. I'm Devon. I hope I don't have to give my age. I'll just have three things. May I suggest perhaps that graphs could be helpful, perhaps over a 4-year period, to pick up what is the trend that is happening in terms of and a consistency of analysis. Well, some things I didn't understand, and because this is not my field, I heard about Olympics costing like 120 million more than World Championship. Yeah, but I didn't understand what is that cost. Is that like television rights that cost more? And
rights and production, Devon.
Right, and then because it costs more, I think it was said that the revenue would be more than the World Championships. So why is it that, is there a comparison to previous years why it was a negative this time around?
It's simply because in 1 year, in 23-24, we had the World Championships, and then last year, 24-25, we had only the Olympics. Yeah.
Let me try one more time. What I'm saying, you have had this before, Olympics and World Championships. So why is it in this instance, Olympics costing, you would expect it to cost more?
Yeah, well,
it normally costs more. But why is it that there is that fall off in the revenue to match? I don't know if you understand the point, because
I understand the point, and part of the reason is the overall softness in the advertising market more generally. But I think it is a fact that
no, but if it's softness in the market, it would have affected the World Championship also.
Well, and it did. We brought in less revenue than we budgeted for.
Yeah, but you are comparing Olympics to World Championship and giving it as a rational.
Only as to cost, Devon.
All right. Let me give the last one then, because I'm not understanding the addition.
Perhaps
there's a slide.
Sorry, sir.
There's a slide.
Sorry, before you go on, can the CFO attempt to give you a clearer answer?
Right. So what we have to, the reason why that was actually brought up was that when you look at, so you had you had Olympics, better? Okay. So you would have had the Olympics in 24, in 23-24, you'd have had a world, sorry, the other way around. You'd have had Olympics in 24-25, World Championships in the year before. So we're not actually disputing that there was actually a revenue fall off. But what we're actually saying is that if you compare the direct cost of carrying both of those properties, Olympics is going to cost a lot more. It did cost a lot more. It in fact cost 120 million more than the World Championships. So you would have actually expected, we accept that the revenue was a little less. And of course, World Championships is also going to garner less revenues. So we accept that, but what we're saying is that when you look at the expenses, you would have expected that in the year when you have Olympics, your expenses would rise a lot in comparison to the prior year, because the cost to carry Olympics is way more than the cost to carry World Championships. And so when you look at it in that perspective, that was the perspective that we were trying to show.
I'm giving up because I understand that part of it, but nobody seems to understand what I'm saying. This is the final one. The comment I'll make has to do with a slide, because I'm not doing the addition right. It's a slide that said there are 1.6 subscribers and 5 million followers. And then when you see the slide, it said that the total is 7.7 followers and subscribers. When I combined it, I got 6.6, not 7.7. But you can look at that slide, you'll see what I'm saying.
Sure. Can I ask Bev Thompson, our head of digital, to answer that question?
So as you would have heard, we have the widest audience base, and we picked out the ones that are substantial, that adds up to, so it's everything that adds up to 7.7 million. But as you would appreciate, we have radio, we have TV, we have apps, we have several other digital platforms between Facebook, IG, TikTok. We just pulled out the ones for the 7.7 million. So it would not add up. And in that area as well, in this sphere, everything will not add up every day. It's a moving target, it changes. If you go today and look at all of those platforms, they change constantly. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bev. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Chairman. Neville Graham from the Gleaner. The efforts to staunch the bleeding are commendable, but we didn't seem to get, I have 4 questions, so I'll give them all at once. The efforts to staunch the bleeding are commendable, but we did not get any specifics on your efforts at cost containment. So we'd like to get a little bit more on that. Then what is the projection for overhauling this negative position of annual losses and accumulating losses? What is the projection for getting out from that miasma?
Let me take those two, okay. Neville, if you will. In terms of the cost containment, I think in the slides that were presented, we showed in the second quarter of this year on the order of a $237 million reduction in expenses relative to the prior year. Yeah? So that is where that has come from. Now, where are we going to get the additional revenues, which I think is part of your second question? And I think there are a number of strings to that bow. The first is that we are reorganizing the commercial operations. The commercial operations of the group were very segmented. We have never really operated as a single company. After the merger took place, we continued to operate as two separate organizations. Bringing those organizations together, bringing new leadership in some cases into some of the sales and marketing functions with a group rather than a particular division focus, by bringing ourselves to best practice in sales, lead generation and closure. All of those things are going to be part and parcel of what we are trying to do.
All right, thank you very much, Chairman. On that one, sales are off, and we have some efforts in overhauling that situation. But two things. The receivables seem a little too high, which would suggest you having to write off too much, which would be adding to that negative bottom line. And then secondly, the more important thing, the matter of starting to get real revenues from our DSO efforts. Might I suggest that our lobbying efforts have not produced as much as it should, and that we may be left holding the bag in that regard. And so, in our arrangements, in reorientating ourselves, we could look at ways of going it alone and making sure that some 1.1 or 1.2 billion dollars that was spent can be recouped in short order.
Yeah, but and we are making a lot of effort in that regard. I'm going to ask Carla to first speak to the first question, and then we can deal with the second. Go ahead.
Okay. So receivables, the figure, it's based on, how our sales operate. You would have noticed that last year we would have had an impairment loss on receivables of about 112 million. We recognized that the receivables were a little high last year, and what we did was we placed a lot of efforts on actually looking at our receivables, addressing them, and also doing some strong recovery, some strong collections efforts on them. And as a result, you would have seen that this year, the receivables is actually reduced by $372 million. And that has also led us to have an impairment reversal that's in the books. And you will see it on there as $113 million reversal. So while last year it was quite high, and of course the standard had us having a high impairment loss, this year we actually really did some work, and we've actually been successful at managing our receivables a lot better, and that has resulted in an uplift that has affected our profits.
All right. And in respect of your second question, Neville, I agree that perhaps our lobby efforts have not been as intense as perhaps they ought to be. And I can say that that was an issue that was discussed in great detail at our last board meeting. And suffice to say that we will be substantially energizing, if you like, those lobby efforts going forward and beginning very, very soon. Sir. Oh, this gentleman. Go ahead. Your name, sir.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Christopher Scott, not reporting as the Christopher Scott reporting for TVJ Sports, but reporting as a shareholder. Yes, sir. I'm happy to know that you have a care division of the company. However, I'm wondering if you coordinate your efforts with other groups.
I don't know if Gary is still in the room. Well, there are a number of churches, first of all, that we are partnering with. I think they gave you a list of those churches. Gary, can you come and attempt to answer this gentleman's question?
Thank you. If you could repeat the question, I was actually organizing my collection box for RG Cares, which will be at the table on the left as you're going through the door. So that's where it is. You go to those ladies, they'll have it.
Okay,
yes,
what the question that I had asked, if you were coordinating your efforts with other groups, your relief efforts.
Right, so we have decided that it is going to be challenging to coordinate with government entities, but we are working with other foundations and particularly with the churches, because the churches have a network that is deep and that can recognize authentically the most vulnerable. And we think that that is the best group to work with at the moment. And it's confirmed by what we see when we go out there. We have to be policing one person coming in the line and putting 3 children before them to get 4 bags for one family when others don't. So we are working with the people who know it, and it's not any church that is excluded. If there are others that want to come on board, fine. And if there are other foundations, we are willing to work with them as well.
Well, I'm glad to know that you have that level of coordination going. Because I was in St. Elizabeth the other day. I went to visit families. And what I realized is that persons, you and I, have a heart to donate something. You do your thing, I do my thing. And what you realize is that both of us go in the same area. So it's just one step people get things. Now, it seems that everybody is keeping to the main road.
Right,
Santa Cruz, Lacova, going Black River.
Black River, right.
And forgetting those persons affected off.
Right.
Yeah.
So we take that, that's a very good point. And actually we have volunteers here, some freelancers, some staff members who have been on both trips with us. And while we go to a base point and we do some things at the base point, we actually then drive into communities that we gather information which says that this community hasn't gotten any relief, or that community,
that is so true.
Or the church people will tell us that there are some shut-ins, or there's a small
It is important that we do that, because what I realize, one set of people, they are out on the road. One entity comes, gives, and they don't go home. They stay there for the entire day.
Yes, true.
So they get, and then get, and then get.
Right.
So if 5 individuals traverse in one route, you might well realize that by the time everybody gets to a particular point, what they have finished, and those beyond that point don't get.
Yes. No, but Ransford and Simone and Sandra and the others, we go into lanes and where you don't have streets, they walk up hillsides and go to people who are there.
Because I had intended to call the radio station and highlight that, but I just highlighted it here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chairman, you have to stop me, because I'll keep going because it's
No.
passion.
All right. Sir.
Yes, Marlon Blake. So my first question pertains to the revenue strategy and its alignment to the next 5-year forecast. So I realized in the presentation, which was good, there were not many specific numbers in terms of revenue growth. So my first question is, what's the estimated revenue growth, either in dollar amount, whether I know it's 5.3 or 5.4 now, like in the next 5 fiscal year, or in percentage amount?
Yeah. Well, let me say that our expectation is that during the current financial year, we will achieve close to US $1 million in pure digital revenues. Yeah? Now, that whole initiative did not begin at the beginning of the financial year. It began partway into the financial year when we brought digital talent on board to assist us in monetizing our content. So if we achieve the $1 million in digital revenue this year, management is targeting growth of 30% per annum. And I think, over a period of years, that would take us to a quite significant sum. We are hopeful that we can get the digital revenues to a point where they do more than simply offset any declines that we have in traditional media, and in particular in print. So that's my answer.
So just to clarify though, is that 30% only digital, or is it overall revenue?
No, it's digital.
So what's the overall revenue estimate for next year and next year after?
I'm not able, based on JSE rules, to give you forecasts for the company's revenues. We are not allowed to make forward-looking statements. And I would love to, but it would put me in hot water. So I hope you'll understand.
Okay, I'll try to understand. But my second question regarding the, because now, like for the last 2 fiscal years, we achieved net loss of over 500 million. And based on the it's good that we're containing costs, but it's still increasing, and it will increase based on inflation in the future. So, and if revenue is overall is not growing by much, at which point in the next 5 years does management and the board expect to at least break even? Like, is it going to be year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Again, that is not something that I am prepared to disclose because of JSE rules. Yeah? You saw from the second quarter financial statements that were spoken to by Carla that we actually produced positive EBITDA in a month. We saw a $237 million reduction in sales, and that was a $237 million reduction in costs, rather, that almost entirely offset our sales reduction. And I think that as we implement more and more of these initiatives, for example, we spoke to the printing and distribution partnership that we are currently in the final stages of negotiating with the Jamaica Observer Limited. That is expected to save us very significant money. I can't give you a figure again because of JSE rules. But there are also a lot of other initiatives in play that I believe will continue to drive reductions in our cost base, while we are also driving to improve revenues. And the traditional revenues, I think, we believe there is scope for some improvement. Our new sales manager for the group has a great deal of experience in sales best practices and so on, and we're going to be doing it on a unified basis where we can offer clients a whole range of advertising options, and we may even be looking at some bundles that would encourage advertisers to spend more in dollar terms than they might otherwise do. So there are lots of strategies that I think we can use. Getting our sponsorship packages out to the market much, much earlier than we do currently. I think our target now is, what is our target now? Getting our 3 months, 90 days ahead of the event. And we have not been achieving that, and I think that has been one of the contributors to the softness that we've seen.
Okay, thanks. So my final question pertains to the financial position of the company. So I realize over the last 2 years, more specifically, you guys, including the first 6 months of this year, you guys have actually increased the long-term debt of the company. So I was wondering why, if you guys have so much confidence in the strategy or the transformation actions, then why we don't pursue at least a mixture of equity financing and long-term? Why are we only focusing on long-term debt financing?
Yeah. That is something that we may well look at in the future. We have the borrowings we have done in particular during the current financial year are targeted towards defraying the costs of our restructuring efforts, as well as making certain new investments in a number of our existing products. And we simply did not have the liquidity to make those investments without the benefit of that additional debt. But we are hopeful through a combination of better financial performance, as well as some asset divestments, that we will be able to pare away at that debt over time.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chairman.
This gentleman over here. Yes, sir, your name?
Henry Ellis is my name.
Say again?
Henry Ellis. That's two surnames. Mr. Chairman, I was this person who got up in a meeting and made a suggestion that we should have all-night radio. In the days of J. Lester Sparling, God rest his soul. You remember that? Nobody remember. Anyway, a long time? Anyway, I wish to applaud Radio Jamaica for what has been going on, except to say that I observed that the standard is falling. Last night was good. I mean, Monday night is generally good. Tuesday night is good. Wednesday night is good. But from Thursday, taper down. And I want to think that we're having too much dead here. And that is where you're losing money. Because you could put in some advertisement right there. You have people listening to the radio station all over the world. And if you put in ads where you have dead here, you could be earning.
I agree, sir. I agree. I don't know if Delia, you want to make any comment on those particular questions or observations?
You see, we have the all-night buses that listen, And there are some of us that travel, and wherever we go, we listen to Radio Jamaica. You see? So we don't want to be abroad and you can't get the radio. And, when you do get it, sometimes you're dead here. No.
Yeah. But I would point out to you, so, if you downloaded One Spot Media, all of our channels, television and radio, are available live on that platform, so that you would be able to listen to the radio. I'm not trying to counter your point. I'm just advising you that take a look at the One Spot platform,
yes,
where all of our television stations, even some television stations that are not our own stations, some Caribbean stations, are available live on that platform.
Yes. There was another question I wanted to ask, but I asked the gentleman already in charge of engineering with regards to your damage due to the hurricane. But he answered me personally already. I don't know if others want to hear. If there were damages during the hurricane, Mr.
Melvis, you want to speak to it?
Morning, everyone. Yeah, he did ask me if we suffered any damages, and I mentioned that there are some locations that we don't have no access. And so, but I know about Shafton, that was flattened, and that is what I know so far. But I couldn't give an extent, a full extent, because we haven't been everywhere yet. So we are still trying to assess. All right.
Thank you, Melvis. This gentleman over here.
Yes, good day. Earl Dawkins, the name. My concern is from the merger between RJR and the Gleaner, one of the situations was that we have to be renting property from RJR, from Gleaner. With all the downturn in the whole thing, I don't remember what rental we are paying to Gleaner, but I think that they should bear some of the losses that is happening.
Who should bear some of those losses?
Gleaner Company, the previous Gleaner Company. That is renting.
Can I stop you though, sir?
Yes.
Can I stop you? I think one of the things we need to do is to stop talking about the Gleaner separate from RJR. That is one of the issues that I think has created problems for us since the merger. We've operated mostly in silos, and the fact is that, as I said at last year's annual general meeting, we are determined to effect a complete merger of the two companies such that we are a single company operating on several different platforms where our viewers want us when they want us.
I'm sorry if I didn't make it clear. I'm not referring to the Gleaner Company that has been merged with RJR. I'm speaking about the remainder company that we are renting property from them. I don't even remember the name of that.
We're not renting any property for them, sir.
The printed media is not renting from...
Say again?
The printed media,
No.
there's no rental.
No.
Oh, but initially it wasn't, right?
Yeah, those long-term rental rates, the merger between 1834 and RJR have cleaned out those rentals. They no longer exist.
So finally, the property of 1834 belonged to the merger?
Yes.
Thank you.
Morning, sir. Michael.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, my name is Michael Burke.
And before you go ahead, I think we're only going to be able to take a couple more questions. So anybody who needs to answer a question, I think, needs to go to the microphone.
Yes.
So go ahead, Mr. Burke.
Yes, I'm wondering though that with the total merger and with the cutting of costs between the RJR group and the Gleaner, etc., is that going to include the abolition of print media?
No, sir.
It's not going to include that?
No,
Okay.
look, print media around the world, and we are no different, is in a multi-decadal decline.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
And there may come a day when it's no longer economic
Yes.
to print a newspaper. But that day is not anytime soon. I'll put it to you that way.
Yes, another idea that I was thinking of is that with the Jamaica Union of Fishermen Cooperative Societies nearby RJR, if they ever thought of reaching out to them to show them ways, because they do have a great financial base, as to how they can not only empower themselves, but empower the whole country. And to have programs even for the children of these fishermen, who many of them are university graduates, to show their parents how to make that business, and then have that on the radio, have that on the television, and bring in ads through that.
So, that's a reasonable suggestion,
Right.
sure, and I commend it to management to take a look at that and see if there's an opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. I was just wondering, though, that the gentleman spoke about some program being not so good on a Thursday and so forth. It was in line with Solomon Gunde. Took sick on a Thursday, worse on a Friday, died on a Saturday, buried on a Sunday.
Thank you for injecting some humor into the discussion, sir. Thank you. All right. The final question.
Thank you, Mr.
Was
Chairman.
it from Mr. Borrow?
Christopher Borrow, yes. I have written letters to the editor years ago, got published, no problem. But the last time I tried, I think there were some new protocols that governed allowance of letters to the editor, for lack of better words. And I found it a little frustrating trying to deal with it. I even considered writing to the other paper, and I said, not a damn, I own shares in Gleaner. Now, we need to look at this and find a way you want to liven up things at the Gleaner, we need to get people involved. I still have the same burning issue, and I think many Jamaicans would like to hear about it, and you can't get it printed because whatever the protocols are, we need to look at that.
Okay, let me say a couple of things, and I'll ask Moya to weigh in if she wishes. But, you know, we receive a lot of letters, hundreds and hundreds of letters, yeah? And the economics of the printed newspaper are such that you cannot put in all of those letters into the newspaper.
It's not a numerical thing, Mr. Chairman. It's not numerical. It's actually getting it accepted. There are new, security protocols, whatever.
Well, that I will ask Moya to address, and Moya, maybe you can have a discussion with Mr. Borrow.
It's definitely not numerical. In the past, my letters have been printed, so that's not a problem. The thing is to get it accepted now, to be able to get in, to send the letter. It has become difficult, and I can't figure out why. What is this foolishness?
Yeah. And it ought to be the case. It ought to be the case, frankly, as well. It ought to be the case, frankly, as well. Even if we cannot print the volume of acceptable letters that we get, which is the case, yeah, we have to distinguish amongst them. Perhaps we could consider, and this is something that Moya could discuss with you as well, we could consider putting some of those letters that didn't make the printed paper online so that they could get the exposure that we need.
That is a good one, Mr. Chairman. You might find then the subscribers to that system increasing greatly.
I would hope so. All right. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Borrow. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Can I have one?
Close
Just
the
a simple.
questions, you know, Chief.
Not
All
long.
Last one. Go ahead, very quickly.
Well, one is a question. With this Melissa pass in Jamaica, what would it do to your company, or which will it affect it? Positive, negative, with the economic thing, or what do you think?
Well, certainly we've incurred a significant amount of property damage, in particular to our transmitter sites, and it's going to be very costly to repair or replace some of our infrastructure. However, I can assure you that we are properly insured against those losses, and that we are also insured against business interruption.
Okay.
So any slowdown in sales that takes place, for example, of newspapers, either because, because we are not able to reach some communities, we will be able to recover that through our business interruption policies.
Glad to hear that. Okay, one more I want to commend. Well, I understand in your foundation you want to involve the church. I think that is good. I'm a church person, and even this coming week I'll be going to Westmoreland. And when we are giving stuff to the church member, we ask them to give to the neighbor. So we're going to not only stay on the main, we're going to go right into the interior. So that's a good thing you are doing in that area. All right? So that's it. So
Thank you very much.
thing.
Thank you very much.
Right, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we can go back to the agenda, we have moved and seconded the resolution that the audited accounts for the year ended March 31st, 2025, together with the reports from the directors and auditors thereon, be and are hereby adopted. All those in favor? Any against? I declare the motion carried. Okay. Our second planned resolution for the meeting is to put to this meeting that we re-elect directors who retire from office by rotation in accordance with Article 98 of the company's articles. The directors so retiring are Mr. Irvin Eyre, Sharon Roper, Cassida Jones-Johnson, and Elizabeth Ann Jones, who, being eligible for re-election to the board, offer themselves for re-election. I am proposing that directors Eyre, Roper, Cassida, Jones-Johnson, and Jones be elected en bloc. Please note that if the resolution to elect the 4 directors en bloc is opposed by a single shareholder, we will have no choice to proceed to have them each elected individually. So I am hopeful, in the interests of efficiency, that we'll be able to pass the resolution. So that resolution is that the following directors who are now vacating office pursuant to Article 104 of the company's articles, namely Mervyn Eyre, Sharon Roper, Cassida Johnson, and Elizabeth Ann Jones, be re-elected. Will a member... Sure. Unfortunately, Cassida Jones-Johnson is unable to be here, but the other 3 directors are here. Thank you, sir. All right. So I just read out the resolution, which is to elect these directors en bloc. Can I get a mover of that resolution? Paulette Jones? Joel. Thank you. And a seconder? The lady at the back. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Having moved and seconded the motion, I'm now going to put it to the vote. All in favor? Any against? Thank you all so very much. Okay. So I can skip over all of the next 4 pages. All right. So The next resolution is to invite you to authorize the Human Resource and Compensation Committee of the Board to fix the remuneration of the directors, including any executive directors, for the financial year which will end March 31st, 2026, and if thought fit, pass the following resolution. Resolved that the Human Resource and Compensation Committee of the Board be and is hereby empowered to fix the remuneration of the directors, including any executive directors, for the financial year that will end March 31st, 2026. Will a member propose? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've asked for a member to propose that motion. Mr. Borough moves. Can I get a seconder? Thank you, sir. Seconded. We can therefore put this resolution to the vote. All in favor? Any against? Motion is carried. All right. The last resolution that we're going to deal with this afternoon, is for the reappointment of Baker Tilly as auditors of the company for the ensuing financial year. And the resolution reads, resolved that the firm Baker Tilly, having agreed to continue in office as auditors, the directors be and are hereby authorized to agree their remuneration in respect of the period ending with the conclusion of the next annual general meeting. Can I have a motion? Will somebody move? Andrew Walters moves. Can I get a seconder? Thank you very much, ma'am. So we proceed to vote. Those in favor? Any against? Motion is carried. So that, under any other business, it's possible that we could take one more question, but the fact is, if there is no other business, we'll be able to conclude this meeting. So, hearing none, I am going to declare. Yes, sir.
Good day, sir.
You, sir, and that's it. Okay? Go ahead.
Junior Dunn, stockholder. When I came today, I got no armband. Is it saying that we're not going to get any meal or any souvenir or any dividend? I noticed over the years we have been sliding. We come and we don't get any dividend. What is happening?
Yeah. But clearly, sir, I think you would agree with me. In our current financial state.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're about refixing the remuneration for directors.
We didn't say we were going to increase it, sir. But every year, the directors need to be empowered.
I don't say neighbor, you need to have a freeze like how you're freezing us too, sir. In the corporate, in the credit union areas, when they are doing their accounts, our budget, the budget a dividend for their members. In this situation, you need to budget a dividend for stockholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. I was near the earlier part of the meeting when it was starting, but I believe you start with prior. The last meeting I was with us end without even asking. Now we are going into a new phase, a new year for the company. We need prayer to go into that new year. So we are asking that somebody close and ask God blessing for the company during the time coming.
Tony, you want to take that one? You want to take that question? Or he wants to close with a prayer? Okay. That's fine with me. So you want to deliver the prayer personally, or would you like someone else to deliver the prayer? Okay, so can I get a volunteer from management? You'll pray. Come on, pray. I'm going to let you answer this. Before you do that, Robin has a question, which he has been trying to get in. So,
thank you for acknowledging that, Chairman. I represent one of your larger shareholders, and my concerns, I think, are probably not necessarily best here in this forum. So I'm going to ask if we could have a meeting separate from this one of the larger shareholders to discuss some concerns we have and perhaps even some suggestions we may have regarding how we can assist in moving the company forward. Because my main concern is the price of the share and what it means to the investment we've made in this entity in the long term. So if we could perhaps meet after this and have a discussion.
That's a reasonable request, sir.
And of course, Chairman, you could make a decision as to where the cutoff should be, so we can discuss substantive matters on moving this group of companies forward.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Mr. Burke, in prayer, sir.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, we pray that the Radio Jamaica Group will continue to be resilient in the whole communication business and in the business of educating the public, and in both ways being able to empower not only our shareholders but empower all of our people in Jamaica. All of this we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit.
Thank you very much, sir, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.